On my last hunt with Ben, met him at the range. Here he is at the 200-yard table, sighting in his 338 Federal AR-10, shooting 200 grain spear hot core hand loads. And Carpe Sus, we moved on to the first property of the night. We've got hogs in the neighbor's field. They're over there in a winter wheat field, and they've come across the field already, and now they are leaving, headed back to the trees on the left-hand side, which are actually on our property. But we don't have a way to get around to that side of the property in a quick manner. There's fences and whatnot in between us and the hogs. In order to get over there, it'd be easier to drive all the way around, but by the time we got over there, it'd be 15 minutes later, the hogs would be long gone.
Look at that one last one sniffing the air.
So that's going to be our first teaser of the night for the hogs. I'm going to backtrack a little bit and talk a little bit about an operational theory that we use quite a bit, and that is that when the shooting starts, hogs tend to run back to where they were safe previously. But it isn't always a direct route, and this is going to come into play with the next hogs that we come across. Now, you've already seen the neighbor's winter wheat field at the bottom of the screen. We're in a coastal hay pasture. It's divided into two halves, and then there's the rough area above us. We're in the middle of the pasture, and we were watching the hogs on the neighbor's side as they moved into the woods. We moved down quite a bit in hopes that the hogs that then come out onto our side would get a shot at them. And while we were down there, we watched this one lone boar making its way back to the woods. When Ben turned around and saw hogs at the far end of the opposite pasture, we moved down to the middle pasture as the hogs moved into the hayfield. I thought about shooting off my pistol in order to scare the hogs back into our field. Ben said, no, let's wait and see what develops. And sure enough, a little while later, a couple more hogs came in, and that's where we're going to be doing our shooting. Ben shoots and drops his hog, and the rest of the hogs end up running off away like they're going to run into the woods like the previous hogs did, and then cut back and start heading back in the direction that they came from. And we're going to have some more shooting. Eventually we're going to have 4 dead hogs. So that's a little foreshadowing and a lot of information that we didn't know at the time in real time. So we're back looking at a boar following that sounder heading into the woods as we're waiting for hogs to maybe come out on our side. And as that boar disappears in the woods, so when Ben turns around and notices the hogs on the opposite side, we make our move to the opposite end of the pasture, and we've discussed shooting a pistol in order to scare the hogs running back onto our side. Ben has said to wait, and now we've had the 2 boars that have come in, and we're going to see what develops with them. Now, I'm powered up and recording before Ben, but I'm still trying to rectify a problem that I don't have all 3 of my tripod legs on the ground, and so I'm balanced on 2 legs. So I'm getting video with my Super Hogster LRF, which Ben is also using, and I'm shooting a 6.5 Grendel with Druid Hill Armory loaded Sierra Pro Hunter 120 grain bullets.
Yep.
As I'm on the left, I'm going to be shooting at the hog on the left. Ben's going to be shooting at the hog on the right. We've got hogs and a sounder up on a field way off to our left. I don't know, maybe 100 yards or so. Alright, here we go on these 2 boars. I think we hit both of them. I try for Ben's hog, then I try to pick up my runner. Ben works on his hog, and I lose my runner into the rough stuff. Ben's hog is down. And I see it moving, so I try to put a couple more shots into it. And the sounder on the hill is gone, and I don't know where they've gone. They didn't run out into the open where we had hoped.
Right or left? To the right.
So it doesn't look like my operational theory worked out. They didn't run back to where we expected them, and we think we're done. So the recorders get turned off, and we get back to doing administrative stuff. We're going to see about dealing with our hogs when Ben sees hogs behind us. And that shot is where I dropped a hog at 220 yards. As the sounder splits, some of them going to the woods, the smaller ones running down along the tree line, along the fence line. And during this process, I never got my recorder turned on, so you can hear my shots in the background, but I don't have video for that. Ben is being very methodical in choosing his shots, and I don't think he's got quite enough lead on this guy. Oh, so close. And they're going off into the rough stuff. And that's a trailing hog that I picked up. Eventually we came away with 4 hogs. 60-pound male showed, a 60-pound gilt, an 85-pound gilt, and a 200-pound boar. Those were the last hogs that we saw of the night, and the next week finds me out with the Super Hogster LRF again, and I'm excited to find out a bridge that has been out for months has been replaced, and I've got a shortcut back to my hunt properties.
Brass Catcher by Tactical Brass Recovery.
I'm on the first property tonight, the only property that's going to be relevant for the rest of this hunt. And I'm watching some coyotes in the distance. There's also a deer out there, but it's the coyotes that I'm interested in. Out to the far tree line is the property that I can hunt. I can't hunt anything back in those trees, but anything on this side of the trees is fine. And I've got a cross fence, and I don't want to be shooting through the cross fence. And I've seen a pair of coyotes, and there's a deer in the background, but I'm watching for the coyotes to pop their heads up. And this ground rolls quite a bit, and the grass is very high, in some places up to knee-high or higher. And you can see a little head pop up right there in the green circle. And that's going to be one of my coyotes. I continue to watch. And there it is again. Eventually, it moves off to the left and moves out into the open, and I am able to lip squeak it across the fence, and I get it across the fence, and it completely loses interest in the lip squeaking. Here it's apparently found something more palatable in the grass in front of it that's gained all of its attention, so I'm just watching it, biding my time, hoping to get a clear shot on the coyote. But it continues to be in motion. And it's partially occluded by the grass. Nice and broadside now, and just a quick lip squeak to get him to turn. So the finger is off the trigger until I'm on target. When I'm on target, the finger is on the trigger. But when I'm getting ready to fire is when I take up the slack for the trigger. That doesn't mean I'm going to fire. Sometimes I don't fire as the situation changes. As the coyote moves back and forth, or as I'm moving back and forth, or I'm playing the wobble, that's going to happen. So the coyote came in about 25 to 30 pounds is my best estimate. The shot entered the left front of the chest and entered out in the abdomen on the right hand side. For this next coyote, things didn't go so well. He's out there at 395 yards, and I've been lip squeaking him, and I've got him anchored in place, but I cannot get him to commit to coming across the fence to my side, and he is just hanging out, sitting as still as can be. I'm thinking, let's give it a shot. I know the dope for the rifle, or so I thought I knew the dope for the rifle, and I'm going to use a 300-yard dope for a 395-yard shot. And it's going to be way low. I think I kicked up some spray, scared the coyote. He runs away well educated. And so this is what went wrong. At 300 yards, I've got 14 inches of drop, which is what I tried to account for. And that would be the red dot that you see on the screen. But in reality, needed over 32 inches of drop. And that's where the green dot is. And that's where my holdover should have been. And it just didn't work out. A low tire light sent me home early, but while I was on the side of the road putting air into my tire, of the 4 people that drove by me on this deserted farm-to-market road, 2 of them stopped to see if I needed any help. Thank you very much, good folks in Montague County. Carpe sus, my friends.